Morgan.
I got no dogs. Come here. Oh, I'm not picking that one up. she's too crooked. And she's down. They're scattered about. Stuart, you want to come up? Nope. It's already post-breakfast coma time. I haven't had breakfast yet. Once I have breakfast, I will have my post-breakfast coma. Because as usual, sleep eludes me. Yeah, sorry about yesterday. I got way behind schedule.
Remember, you can purchase all of Dr. Morgan's products at her website at www.drjudymorgan.com. Now it's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, I have, for the past week, I just not sleeping. And it doesn't get light out till like 7:30 in the morning. So, you know, when you're up most of the night and then you finally fall asleep and the sun doesn't come up, it's hard to get up. And I had to work yesterday. So, last night in Vermont, only a dusting, but here comes winter. Yeah. So, yeah, sorry, what's for breakfast? That's a good question. I do have homemade bread. The chickens are not laying eggs, so Hugh and I have to go to the local little teeny tiny pork market up the road. Has farm fresh eggs that are locally sourced. So since our chickens are back to being freeloaders with no feathers, they're molting. They're ugly, ugly, ugly. I guess I should get some pictures. They're ugly. I need a vacation. Don't worry, it's coming. Rainy, soon to be hit Louisiana again. Yeah, you guys stay safe. 5 storms in 1 year, just totally crazy. Yeah. So yesterday, by the time I finished everything, I hadn't had breakfast and I hadn't packed any lunch. And I looked at the clock and it was 8:23, and I went, "Well, I had a choice here." So I grabbed a healthy bar for breakfast, threw something in a bag for lunch, and ran out the door. So sorry about that, guys. Okay. Anyway, so first things first, because I keep forgetting to do this. This package came when I was at the office, and Pam said, "There's a big package in the back." And I haven't ordered anything for a while, so I don't know why there's a big package in the back. And I looked at it, and the package was from Marilyn Miller Schnapp. And I said, "Well, that's not from one of the drug companies. That's from one of our supporters and friends." And so I opened it up, and I was incredibly shocked. And so you all know that with COVID and staying home and stuff, my mom and I have made 3 quilts. We're about to start our 4th. So I think a lot of people are kind of we've been doing a ton of baking, which I never had time for before. So, we're all getting a little more domestic. So this awesome thing came in the mail. And what it says on it, because I don't know if it'll show up with this lighting, is if your why doesn't make you cry, then your why isn't strong enough, with the initials JLM. So let's see. So that didn't help. No, because it's got the glare.
We'll take a picture and post.
I'll have to take a picture and post it. You can see it a little bit better that way. But she did it in our Naturally Healthy Pets colors. And you can see this thing is huge. And it's embroidered. And it is amazing. So we immediately took something else off the wall and hung it up, which is why I keep forgetting to say thanks. I cannot wait to hang it in our office down in North Carolina, because we're designing that one from scratch. So we get to have everything, Hugh literally is designing the house around our pieces of furniture and around the artwork that's going to go on the walls. So it's pretty amazing.
We already know where a lot of it is going to go.
We already know where a lot of it is going to go. So it's kind of fun. All right. So, yep. And it's got the yin and yang paw print. I mean, I just love it. And obviously she designed that from scratch. So she did the design and then did the embroidery. It's just, it's amazing. that's kind of how we like to do our quilts. And I used to do a ton of embroidery 35 years ago. So when this came, I thought, ooh, well, okay, maybe something else I can add to my little list of things to keep me busy. Besides caring for the grandchild who apparently has found her lungs and has no problem using them and is making poor Gwen a little bit crazy, but her dad and stepmom are down there this week to help them out. So, and I cannot wait to get down there, hopefully next week. A couple things. I had another consultation yesterday with the cutest French bulldog, little tiny 13.5-pounder little girl who's only a year old. Came over from Philadelphia with her mom, who loves her dearly. And I went out to, when I do consultations at the office right now, it's so hard to talk to somebody on the phone for an hour and not be able to see them, especially when I've got their dog in my hands. So I went out to the car, put the dog back in the car, and she rolled down her window and we wore masks. And I stood there and we had an hour-long conversation in the parking lot. Stupid me, forgot to put a jacket on. It was really cold and I was freezing. But other than that, it was fine. But I jokingly said to her, I said, about a year ago, I said, I am not going to take on any more French bulldog cases because they are so difficult. Almost all of them have IBD. Almost all of them have skin allergies, environmental allergies, food allergies. They're a mess. They are really a mess. A lot of them have upper airway disease because they're so brachycephalic, and so many of them are poorly bred. I do occasionally see the healthy, well-bred one, which is a really nice change. And this little one had no problems in the first 11 months of her life. But she was given Bravecto in June. She was given Bravecto again in September. And about 2 weeks after the second dose, she started to have seizures. And mom was smart and got insurance for this dog. So she's had an MRI and she had a spinal tap to look at the spinal cord fluid. And her MRI was very nice. No genetic problems, at least nothing that's really significant that could be contributing to seizures, which is nice. And she's the cutest little dog. She's so sweet. She does have both patellas in the back are luxating, grade 2 out of 1 to 4. So her knees pop in and out all the time. And there was nothing about that in the year-long vet records that I got from her. I said, did you know that your dog has luxating patellas? And she said, yeah, I knew that. I said, there's nothing about it in your vet record. She said, yeah, they didn't notice it. So much for the complete exam. But I said to her, did either the neurologist or your veterinarian mention that the Bravecto could have been responsible for the seizures that have started? And she said, I asked them. She said, because I went online and I started doing a lot of research, and then I was horrified at what I saw out there. And I asked both of them point blank, and they both said, nope, no relation at all. Okay, I don't know what literature they're reading, but I got news for them. So I said to her, well, then I'm guessing this has not been reported to FDA. This has not been reported to the manufacturer of Bravecto. And she said, no. And I said, you need to do that. So I told her how to do that by going to the FDA website. And I said, you have to do this because the reason veterinarians don't acknowledge that these problems exist is because only about 1% of the reactions get reported. And if we have 100,000 dogs and cats with reactions from this product, then if that's 1%, we got a huge problem. So she agreed because she's a nurse. She said, yes, it's very important that we do this. So what they found, the MRI was okay, but on the spinal tap, they found white blood cells, no bacteria, no infection. And so they said it was autoimmune meningoencephalitis. So basically they're saying, hey, there's inflammation of the brain and spinal cord with no known cause. So what do? They call it idiopathic, which means we don't have a cause. Yeah, we do have a cause. We have Bravecto-induced inflammatory meningoencephalitis. It's a neurotoxin. That's what it does. So, of course, the dog is on pretty high dose of steroids, has been for about 3 weeks now, along with phenobarb for the seizures. Now, the seizures have stopped, and that's good news. And the phenobarb is probably what's controlling them, because most of these dogs that develop seizures secondary to the isoxazoline class of drugs will continue to have those seizures for life, particularly with Bravecto. With NexGard, I have seen some of the dogs come back down off their seizure problems and eventually become seizure-free. But with the Florilanner, which is Bravecto, most of the dogs that I see develop seizures from it are stuck with that problem for life. So I told her she also might want to check into the class action lawsuit against the makers of Bravecto, because this is a huge problem, and the veterinary community is saying no. Patty Bernard, wow, the exact same diagnosis they gave my friend's puppy that was in complete denial. So how do we get these neurologists to start publishing papers saying, let's do a retrospective study. How many cases of autoimmune meningoencephalitis have we seen since this class of drugs was put on the market about 6 years ago? How many? Because I bet there's a huge uptick. And, thanks to advanced diagnostics and thanks to more people having insurance, we have more people getting MRIs and spinal taps. And frankly, I have been doing more and more consultations. The only dog I ever knew that had that diagnosis was my dog back in 1989. And his was secondary to a distemper vaccine. And the neurologist actually told me, yep, that's probably what that's from. That was before I was holistic. But let me tell you, it was one of the many steps that pushed me more toward the holistic medicine. So how do we get these vets to wake up? We just need to keep publishing. So, the owner was phenomenal. And I said, this dog can't get vaccinated anymore. So we had a long discussion about that, because I said, we can't send the immune system into overdrive. And our goal is to help wean this dog down off of steroids first and then phenobarb. But of course, what the traditional veterinarians want to do, they want to keep doing serial spinal taps. So like every month, this poor dog is going to get spinal taps. And really interesting, she said, the neurologist said, if they do a spinal tap and the white blood cells are gone, that means the prednisone is working. So they're going to keep the dog on steroids. If you solve the problem, why do you keep the meds going? If it didn't come down at all, then they'll stop the steroids because they're not helping. Okay, well, that makes sense. But wouldn't you still want to start weaning the dog down? Like, this dog is on an immunosuppressive dose of steroids. So I think at some point we'll try to start getting this dog off the steroids and maybe go to a plant sterol and some PEA, some of these other things that can decrease the inflammation for this little dog, and not be stuck with long-term steroids, because a lot of these dogs that I see with this diagnosis in my consultations have been on steroids for 1, 2, 3 years, along with anti-seizure medications, and their livers are tanking. So, that's not a good solution. It's not a solution. It's which will your dog die of? The inflammatory problem or the medication? The cure can't be worse than the disease. Anyway, we had a new rescue dog come in yesterday. Dr. Bowling said this was what do we call them? A hidden consult. They really needed a consultation. The dog came with a lot of problems, but the rescue sent it with an isoxazoline drug, which had already been given, along with about a whole baggie full of medications for this dog. So aren't steroids bad for the kids? Steroids are bad for everything. High blood pressure, blood clots, adrenal gland suppression, liver swelling. There's just so many problems with steroids. Immune suppression. Just a lot of problems. Anyway, so yet another case of Bravecto toxicity that no one's willing to admit to. Second thing in my inbox this morning was my little Pets, I think it's Pets Plus articles. Purina, I said, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago that they were opening a new plant down in North Carolina for, I don't know, $400 million. Well, now they're opening their 22nd location in Williamsburg, Ohio. They're spending $550 million on that plant, which will mostly make ProPlan, Purina One, and Dog Chow. Good news is they're making it an energy efficient plant. Good news is they're employing 300 people. They're also using a lot of automation. Good news, it'll be a new clean plant instead of their old ones that are just horrendous. But in the past 5 years, they've invested $1.5 billion in US operations. That tells you how much money these pet food companies are making, using very poor quality ingredients, using rendered products, using 4D meat, using very little meat, using a lot of corn and wheat and soy, which is a cheap source of protein. And it would be interesting to look at, and be easy to find, the profits after the whole DCM debacle, where a bunch of cardiologists said, oh, if your dog isn't eating one of these foods, they're going to die of DCM, which is so false. And actually, the little Frenchie's owner said to me yesterday, well, I don't know about that whole grain thing. I think I have to have grain in the diet. And I said, oh, please. That's another hour-long conversation. I said, just trust me when I say you don't need the grains. And she's like, okay, I trust you. So we put the dog on a really nice, gently cooked, human-grade food. I sent her home with All Provide. She does have some food intolerances. The owner has already figured out she can't tolerate chicken, which is the most common. So there you go. Nicole just asked, what's the best food out there? Our dogs eat a lot of All Provide. They eat a lot of stuff from Hair Today. They eat some Primo. They eat some Vital Essentials, because I'm huge into rotating, but really their main base is All Provide. My mom's dog eats All Provide exclusively. And for people who want a gently cooked rather than a raw, All Provide makes raw and gently cooked. And their gently cooked is very popular. It's the same exact recipe. It's just for those who are a little nervous about feeding raw. It's just a great alternative. And it's not loaded with carbohydrates. There are tons of human grade, gently cooked, I call them TV dinners for dogs, that are coming out. They're expensive, especially if you have a big dog, but they're very high in carbohydrates. So when you look at the price per pound and then look at it and go, well, it still doesn't have a ton of meat in there. It's got a lot of other things in there that are starchy carbs, which are not the best things for our dogs to eat. I think we, can do better. So that's why we go the direction that we do. It was on everything that I said. Thank you, Bravecto, Hump Day. Happy Hump Day.
Are you done?
I think I'm about done, honey. I think I covered the things that...
You covered a lot. I got lost.
Switching your Cavalier to Dr. Harvey's from Honest Kitchen, hoping it's beneficial. I think it is. Honest Kitchen is human grade. I commend them for that. So they have good sourcing. But they do use either grains or, in their grain-free, they're using potatoes and peas and lentils. And that's just starches that I've moved away from for our pets and for my patients, which is why we like the Paradigm and the Raw Vibrance, because they don't have the starchy carbs in there. Yeah, and Answer's great company. Not all dogs can tolerate it. Not all dogs like it because it is a fermented product. But we feed some of that as well. Yeah, I use Primo. Shannon, for flea and tick prevention, go to my website, drjudymorgan.com, and in the search bar, put natural flea and tick. There's a whole blog with just tons and tons and tons of information on there. All right, there's somebody said they started using the CBD oil from naturallyhealthypets.com. No seizures this month. Awesome. Time for fresh bread.